Welcome to the Profitable Husband Podcast, where we explore the untold stories of men building empires with their partners. My name's Will Kai. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Profitable Husband Podcast. Today I have a very special guest, the one and only Heather Dubrows. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to have you here. So quick backstory for everyone who's listening. So I started this podcast after my wife and I have built now almost a $10 million brand together.
Wow.
We started out as teenagers having no idea even that we wanted to go into business. And I have tried my best to support her every step of the way, whether it's finding her media deals, building out teams, building out businesses, even if you will. And I really wanted to create a place or a platform, if you will, sharing the behind the scenes looks of other profitable husbands, however that might look, and what it's really like supporting a powerhouse female brand, which your wife clearly is. So welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited. It's great to be asked about how to support your wife rather than just about your career, and plastic surgery, and things like that. I love the whole theme behind your podcast.
Heck yeah.
Fabulous.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. So for everyone who doesn't know who you are, quick story before we enter the world of these amazing wives. What do you do? So
I always say to people, if you don't know who I am, the thing I want to ask you is, what color is it? And the rock that you've been living under. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm a plastic surgeon. I've been a plastic surgeon in Newport Beach, now moving up to Beverly Hills, by the way, in the next few months.
Nice.
Since like 1999. And I have weirdly, despite this face, been on TV since about 2003. I always say I have a face for radio. I don't know how I got on TV. And I've done several TV shows, one called The Swan, which was in 2003 and 2004, before your time. It was a giant reality show after American Idol.
Okay.
And then I've done a number of television shows after that. And of course, the most recent show that I've done for the last 10 years is a show called Botched.
Yeah.
And it's a show, if you have been living under a rock. No, I'm kidding. It's a show that is all about revisional plastic surgery for people that have had plastic surgery disasters. And I actually have a new show coming out in July called Plastic Surgery Rewind, where we take celebrities, move them into a house, and they decide whether or not to rewind their plastic surgery. But also, I've been on a show called Real Housewives of Orange County with my wife, Heather Dubrow. And so Heather and I have sort of gone through this reality TV thing together. And as opposed to other reality TV couples, we've somehow broken the curse and not only stayed together, but benefited from each other's support. And my wife has an enormous platform that's multi-level that you're probably familiar with, both as a mother and as a financial person and a person who does real estate and reality shows and all those kinds of things. And we've been able to successfully do it together, and we've gone through 28 years of marriage.
Wow, congratulations.
And thank you. And we've had, our ups and downs, and there was a period of time on Orange County Housewives where I was a bit of a pain because I thought, wouldn't it be amusing to be amusing on this show?
Okay.
And she, didn't want to be portrayed in a silly way, but I'm a very silly person.
Okay.
So that's, I'm a specialist in doing revisional plastic surgery, but we have product lines. We do real estate. We're starting a new podcast on a major podcast network coming up very soon. And we're going to test, besides talk about our lifestyle, things like that, we're going to test various procedures and things and skincare and supplements and health and wellness and beauty on ourselves and show the audience what works and what is BS, because most of it, a lot of it's not very effective in snake oil. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing, first of all. When we bring you back 28 years ago to meeting Heather, was that 28 years ago?
No, it was 30.
Okay, 30 years ago. What were you guys both like at that point, and were you already in the entrepreneurial world?
So I wasn't. I was a plastic surgeon in Newport Beach, young, and only been here for about 3 years. Heather was on a television show. She was an actress.
She already.
She was on a Sunday night at 8 p.m. TV show. I didn't know the show, but we were set up on a blind date, and we went to this restaurant. I was with my buddy who was a pancreas transplant surgeon at UCLA, where I did all my general surgery and plastic surgery training. And he said, "Hey, you still single?" And I said, "Actually, I just broke up with my girlfriend about 3 months ago. So yeah." And he goes, "Oh, my girlfriend has a friend," and we met. And she was on television, and I was just doing the beginning parts of my plastic surgery career, just trying to make it and establish myself as a plastic surgeon in Orange County.
Wow. And what was it at that point that stood out as, I think we've got something here?
Well, my wife was, just to be perfectly honest, is and was incredibly beautiful. She was 27, and she walked in, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is never going to work, because this is reaching for me. I mean, I had gone out with lots of girls, but she was sort of, an unobtainable type beauty who was on a television show on NBC or something.
Okay.
And, but we hit it off immediately. I mean, the moment we met, she wasn't sure if she liked me because maybe I wasn't enough or something. I have no idea. But the moment we met, we just locked into each other. It was clear that we had something sort of similar about us and similar interests and sensibilities. And we got along immediately right away. And I was 38. She was 27. And she agreed to go out with me on a real date, second date, and I was elated. And after about 6 weeks of dating, we went to Napa Valley on a trip, and that was it. It was done after that.
I love that. And at that time, being early on in your plastic surgery career, were you used to dating women that were also career ambitious and on a journey of their own?
So a little bit. When you're a plastic surgeon, in my day, you had to go through 4 years of medical school, 7 years of general surgery training, and then 2 additional years of plastic surgery. So you either got married and you met a nurse or another doctor, or you were like me, someone who really didn't want to get married for a long time. I wanted to sort of save it and enjoy myself and not be involved in a stable, necessarily long-term relationship. So I forgot what you asked me. What did you ask me again?
When you had met her and started going out, were you already attracted to really powerful women, or was it more so the nurse that might be like more adjacent to going into it being a stay-at-home mom?
I think I wasn't attracted to that, but that's pretty much all you meet.
Yeah.
Those kind of nurturing type girls you might go out with, because in my day, you literally lived in the hospital. You literally, I mean, there was a 7-year period where I was in the hospital almost every other night.
Wow.
All night long. You slept there every other night.
Wow.
For most of my general surgery training. So you didn't really meet girls like a Heather.
Right.
Who was extraordinarily ambitious and outgoing and someone who really wanted to make a mark.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you were attracted to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super ambitious.
Yeah.
I always wanted to have what I called multiple streams of income, because I thought that was a sort of a financial diversification, that if one went bad, the other would support that. Because, I knew very early on, just being raised in, a divorced, broken up kind of family, that, this too shall pass, both good and bad.
Yep.
But the good even will pass, and you'll turn into the bad ultimately. If you don't think it will, you're not thinking right, because it's nothing good or nothing bad lasts forever. And so I thought a way to minimize the pain of sort of downturns is to get more. So I was very ambitious, and Heather was very ambitious in her career. And as soon as we met, it sort of sparked this something in both of us to be as successful as possible. And one of the main reasons I wanted to be successful is because it's a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
You have a lot more opportunities when you're successful, and the more you do, the more you get to do.
Yep.
And I'm one of these people, I don't sleep very well, and I always have had boundless, endless, even at this stage of my life now, amounts of energy where my favorite thing to do is work, and she loves to work, and we love to work together. So we found a way to mix those things together.
I love that. When you were first kind of like binding together and you found that spark, what was it like combining those ambitions? Were you wanting different things, or did you connect on like, we are building this?
We wanted to build something.
Okay.
We always, the moment I met her, I thought, one thing a plastic surgeon could do is to build a big skincare company. Mm-hmm. And she immediately thought of incredible skincare ideas, to the point where she came up with an idea. I wrote a book about it.
Okay.
Called The Acne Cure, based on her idea. And it was a bestseller. And I went on CBS morning show.
Wow.
Good Morning America, or whatever it was 100 years ago, promoted. It was such a big hit. They put me on before, and I was terrible before I knew how to talk on camera. Couldn't string two sentences together. They had to have me do media training before I did it. But yeah, it's funny, Heather doesn't have a medical degree, but she has a little MD. Well, being married to a doctor for a long enough time, she knows so much medicine. But yeah, she really helped me. I wish I could have helped her in her acting career as much as she's helped me or us in our branding careers.
Yeah. What have been the ways that you feel like you've been able to help her in her career?
Well, much to her chagrin, I'm the reason she got thrown on Real Housewives of Orange County.
Do tell.
So, they say laziness is the mother, necessity is the mother of invention. And I always say laziness is the mother of get your act together. But I remember 2006-07, the global financial crisis.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you were a sentient being back then. You were 10. Yeah. So you wouldn't know. You think COVID affected people emotionally. Imagine where the world, basically the entire world, was underwater financially. And, Bank of America stock went to $1. Mm-hmm. And nobody had a job, and nobody was spending money, and everybody was losing their homes. No one was having any plastic surgeon when the global financial crisis hit. And so I was at home thinking to myself, what can I do? And I used to say to Heather, I'm going to think out of the box and do something different.
Yeah.
And she goes, what? I go, I don't know. I'm going to do something different. And we were going out to dinner with a bunch of friends whose husbands were very successful CEOs of major companies. And we were talking. We were all going, what the heck are we going to do with this global financial crisis? The only thing that's selling is guns right now. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if we all just took our wives and started a restaurant together? So we were going to call it the Pelican Hill Wives Club. Okay. And they were going to start a restaurant. I thought it'd be a spectacular failure. We'd all put in $500,000, and that's $4 million seed money. That's enough to start a restaurant. And I thought, this is a reality show. So I wrote up at 4:00 in the morning on my iPad, I Googled reality show treatments, and I do my best thinking between midnight and 5 a.m.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I took pictures of all the wives that were going to be on the show, wrote up sample episodes, and I cold sent it to production companies.
Wow.
And every single one of them wanted to take a meeting. And, they were, one of the husbands had a helicopter, so they'd fly up in their helicopter and make an appearance. They were all incredibly beautiful wives in Pelican Hill and Pelican Crest, and they all wanted to do a deal. And right before we were about to sign a deal with a major production company to potentially do this show, I thought, before we sign a deal, there's that show Housewives. And so let me send this off to the housewife producer. Who does that show, Real Housewives of Orange County? I'd never seen it. So I sent off the treatment. They go, yeah, fly up for a meeting. So we flew up for a meeting, and I was driving home. They were flying home in their helicopter, and the producer calls me, and I go, you want to do the show, right? He goes, well, what about this? you think your wife would consider coming on Real Housewives of Orange County? I go, no way.
Interesting.
That will kill her acting career. She would never do it. And I came home and I said to Heather, so would you ever consider going? Never. I'd never do that. I go, well, if you think about it, we get to be on a hit show. You get reality fame instantly, and we can incubate that show on this show. She said, no way. So I told the producer, I called him back. I go, yeah, she'll do it. And so I strung him along, and we got in a big fight about it. I didn't speak to her for about a week because I thought this is kind of a good opportunity as the world is in crisis to be put on a hit TV show.
Yep.
And then they sent over the contract, and she goes, if you want to do it, you sign it. So I signed it, sent it back, and I convinced her to do it. And that was like 14 years ago.
Wow.
So that's what, to answer your question, I put her on this show, and it sort of took her to a completely different level of platform.
Yeah.
You know, to be on Orange County, on a housewife show is a certain kind of fame.
Yeah.
But if you're authentic and you don't try to monetize and cash in on the fame, you just become a person known for you, you can ultimately become whatever you want to become, just as long as it's authentic. And Heather is so smart and so ambitious and such an inspiring person with so much knowledge about health, wellness, and beauty. And she's one of America's mothers. I don't know how much you know about Heather, but you know, our kids are very LGBTQ rainbow kids. And she's become a real advocate for that platform.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. When you were starting and you had found your spark, you're like, okay, we're going to build something. We're thinking about TV. She's already on TV. Did you have any idea that the platform or empire that you'd build would become this?
No. I thought, we used to go hiking a lot in Crystal Cove at, what is that canyon, that hiking canyon there?
In Laguna?
Yeah, halfway between here and Laguna. Just as you go El Morro.
Okay.
El Morro Canyon. You ever hiked that?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea how gorgeous. Just right down the street, just miles of hiking that's beautiful. Anyway, we used to go hiking. We used to, like I always say for a couple, if you really want to work something out or you want to figure something out, whether you're having a disagreement or a business you want to work on, go for a long hike.
Yep.
And something about the endorphins and the being outdoors and the scenery really puts you in a place where you can sort of really work things out. And we used to go on a hike and we'd work out how to develop a multi-million-dollar skincare product, skincare company. And we did. And we used to call it, you know, it was called the Pimple Pop, our first product. And we thought, you know, it's going to be so successful. We're going to be able to get Pimple Pop Palace, this beautiful palace in, you know, Newport Coast, which we ultimately did. I don't know if you know about our real estate background.
A little bit.
But we ended up selling that one for the third highest real estate sale in Orange County history.
Wow.
Yeah, that Heather built from the ground up.
Wow, okay.
So that's how, you know, that's how we sort of, you know, got our ambitions together and aligned. And, you know, one of our secrets is we talk about it a lot. We plot a lot. And, but it's just, you know, we've been able somehow to combine that platform in such a way and it has to be very authentic. You can't force it, you know, like housewives I notice who go on the show sometime in their first season, they try to like sell hats that say, you know, like trucker hats, or they try to do a skincare when they have no expertise in skincare. They immediately try to sell something. It's a giant mistake.
Trying to monetize too early.
Trying to monetize you too early till you figure out who you are, what your sort of you're known for is. Yeah. And for me, it was pretty clear because I'm a board certified, double board certified, now triple board certified physician. I just got board certified by the American Board of Obesity Medicine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I sat for the exams and passed it. And because I'm obsessed with all of these GLP-1 drugs, you know, the Ozempic type medications. I'm obsessed with what they do for the disease of obesity. But anyway, back to your thing. Yeah, I mean, we sort of we've always been sort of able to figure out how to do things together and separately.
Yeah. How have you, because my wife and I are very similar in that we're plotting 24/7.
Right.
I'm curious, how do you navigate that intense, like, entrepreneurial drive while also keeping your relationship, private and intimate and the spark alive outside of the entrepreneurship as well?
That's a very good question. It's difficult, as you know.
Yep.
But it takes active effort and support. And just like you're plotting, you've got to be plotting in your relationship. Because if you become, the best you can hope for in a long-term marriage is to be best friends.
Yeah.
But if you aren't putting as much effort into your relationship as you are into your ambitions and the plotting and the platform and the success you're trying to have, then you're missing, the opportunity to make sure that you are taking care of each other as a couple. And so you got to make, as much as you make plans to do a Profitable Husband podcast and the other businesses you're doing with your wife, you got to make sure that the business of your relationship is handled. And that's hard.
It is.
Because particularly when you spend, the good news for us is we work together a lot, but I'm a surgeon. Yeah. So there's a lot of time I'm not with her. I certainly would not want her in my office. So I think you need a certain amount of separation, if possible, so that you can be your own people and then come back together and go, okay, I did this today, or we're doing this,
I think that drives intimacy. I flew in last night and I had been we have a property up in Washington, and I was up there for 10 days, and you get home and you want each other a heck of a lot more than when you're together 24/7.
Right.
And I think that is it's a predicament that we fall into, running brands together and not having that surgeon office to escape to.
Right.
And I think it's what a lot of entrepreneurial couples actually face is it becomes so many conversations like this where it is almost as if you're on a boardroom.
It's true. And if every moment is because let's face it, when you're very ambitious the way you and I are, and we are as couples, you tend to discuss the challenges. And all of a sudden, if your entire relationship is discussing difficult challenges and disagreements, and all you're doing is arguing to a certain degree. So you need to be able to go home.
Yeah.
So it's by the way, it's very easy to say, so, plan to have dates together. Make sure you don't, after a certain time, discuss money. It's very easy to say that. It's a lot harder to actually live that.
Yes.
But you have to.
Yeah.
And so, people ask us, how have you been able to stay married so long and work together? What are your secrets? And, we have a few, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 things we always tell everybody, but we think that they're absolutely true,
What are maybe the top 2 or 3 out of those?
So Heather might emphasize a couple of different points, but I think you have to learn how to fight really well and argue really well. And you have to learn the boundaries of disagreeing so that I feel, they say, don't go to bed angry, go to bed angry. Don't try to work it out, because you're going to just get, and particularly if you had any alcohol or you're really tired or you're really stressed, it's just going to compound the disagreement. And now you're up till 2 a.m. fighting about something. Whereas go to sleep mad. Just don't talk about it. And then don't even necessarily talk in the morning. Let some time go by and then go, okay.
Yeah.
And let it, like if you're really mad about something in your business, don't make a decision while you're mad. Sleep on it. Put some good amount of sleep between that and the decision.
Yes.
Never fire off that email.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The same goes for your relationship, in my opinion. Don't go to sleep mad. You don't have to work out every single problem. I think you have to schedule dates. You have to schedule program times together where you're not going to necessarily talk about, it's hard, but you're not going to necessarily talk about that one prevailing issue that's on your mind that's bugging you and that, doesn't seem to go away and give you both anxiety, and now you're both arguing about it.
Like taxes. I completely agree. And I'm actually in a phase of my relationship where I'm actually trying to really get better at scheduling those dates, because it's easy to just get wrapped up in the business and the teams and the hiring and the firing, and then just the processing of all of that with your best friend, with your significant other, and with your partner, I think that is very real.
It's very, very challenging. I think I made a few financial errors in our life that cost us millions of dollars.
Okay.
And I didn't get her involved. She sort of knew I was doing this one thing that lost us $2 million. I got ripped off by a former accountant.
Okay.
Yeah. He lied, and it was a scheme. And it was so obvious in retrospect that it was happening. It was my accountant for like a whole bunch of years.
Wow.
And so, I sort of told her what I was doing. She sort of, whatever. She wasn't really involved in the money very much back then. And I had always made good moves. And all of a sudden we wake up and it was really obvious that the whole thing was a scam and I was never going to see that money back. And so we learned a lot from that mistake.
Yeah.
And so we talk about everything before I do it. I mean, I have my strengths and I do certain things. Oh, it's nice to have sort of certain things you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Everything should sort of overlap to a certain degree, but Heather and I have been I do the stocks and I make the initial sort of real estate sort of looks. I see, and then I bring them to her. But I do all the stocks I do on my own.
Wow.
I happen to have been very lucky in my stock picking and very, very fortunate and able to identify. I mean, it's how obvious this is now, but when the first iPhone came out, the first week it came out, someone showed it to me and I go, oh my gosh, this is going to change the world. And I started buying Apple stock and never stopped.
Wow.
Imagine buying Apple stock in 2004.
Yeah.
And that's this giant accumulation of Apple stock. It's done very well for me. And now, of course, the version of that is AI.
Yep.
If you knew to buy NVIDIA 4 years ago or Tesla 7 years ago, whatever, I've always been able to do that.
Yep.
But Heather and I, we've always had a good symbiosis. Like every house that we've built, I found the land. And I showed it to her, and she goes, I go, but look, it's got an ocean view. It's a Newport coast. And she just built it.
Wow. And
we've done extraordinarily well with that. So we've been lucky, but luck only accounts for so much of it. Yeah. You have to learn how to sort of do those things together.
With having the real estate portfolio and sounds like building and developing homes, you have a actual surgeon practice, reality TV, children. How do you navigate and manage all of that stuff going on?
I think it's important to compartmentalize and to be able to not get overwhelmed by any one thing.
Yeah.
By the way, that's why I like multiple streams of income, multiple things going on at once, because if one of them dies, you've got the other things. Whereas if you put all your eggs in one basket, you're in trouble if one of the things. But how do you do it? I think you compartmentalize. You try to not sweat the small stuff. You have to lean in. One of the things that really helped me was during the financial crisis, I became a Buddhist. Now, Buddhism is not a religion. It's just a spirit. You can be a Buddhist as a Catholic, a Christian, Jewish, whatever.
Yeah.
And Buddhism is all about, the avoidance, pain is optional. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional.
Yep.
So I've gotten very good at not suffering and compartmentalizing bad things. Like, let's say all of a sudden, one of my investments goes south and it's a complete disaster. I'm good at, and she's good at knowing that let's not talk about it because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
If it goes the south, there's nothing you do about it. Just commiserating and talk, so I think compartmentalizing, putting this in one, if something's particularly going bad here, work it and try your best, which is easier said than done.
Yeah.
Try your best not to dwell on it too much, obsess on it too much. Again, easier said than done. And if you are doing that, then go do something else. Go for a run, go lift weights. We've very much leaned into exercise.
Mm-hmm. Good thing to lean into.
Yeah. And that has really helped us with all of the little sort of we call it spinning plates. We feel like we're in a carnival and we have plates spinning at all times. And maybe that was from the Ed Sullivan Show, which was way almost before my time, to be honest. But there was a variety show called Ed Sullivan. You've probably heard of this name, Ed Sullivan, right? One of the acts on Sunday night was this guy would get there with these sticks and he would make all these plates spin, and then this one was about to fall, he'd go spin it again. So you have to learn how to spin a plate, let it go while it's spinning, and move on to another one. And if another one's about to fall and it falls, it's broken, move on.
Yeah.
So compartmentalization has worked well for me. And, let's be honest. I mean, Andrew Carnegie used to say, I think it was Andrew Carnegie, you know who he is? He's, of course, famous, success author way back in the 30s or 40s or whatever. Used to say, 98% of the stuff you worry about is not going to come true.
Yeah.
So you are worrying about the wrong things. And the truth is, you don't know what to worry about. So try not to worry too much about any particular thing.
Yeah.
And distract and move on and exercise.
Yeah.
So for us, I think Heather probably will go 50 days in a row and exercise. And I as soon as I get home tonight, I'm going down to the gym. We live in a high rise now in LA. And even if I will get in that gym, and whether it's walking for 20 minutes or lifting weights for 2 hours, I will do something every single day. And I don't feel like it necessarily.
Yeah.
But it's you need to develop these things you do according to who you are to figure out how to be the person who can deal with all of this.
Yes.
Because everybody's struggling. People look at us online and they think, oh, they have this, that, this, and that. And we get a lot of love. We get a lot of, they're inspiring, they're funny, and a lot of hate too.
Yep.
And I know when you get hate, you go, well, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Because people don't want you to be that successful. But just so you know, as successful as we may seem, we still sweat it. We still are working it. We still are. There's drama in all of it.
Yeah.
May seem like, well, we're flying around in private jets, which we do. We own this property in, here, which we do. We have this and that, which we do. But we also have all the other ick stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no way to avoid it. If you're waiting for a time that you won't have that, it's never going to come.
Yeah.
It is right now that you should just live like you don't have any of that. Because I remember when I thought to myself, boy, if I can get this X amount of net worth, I will forever be relaxed, never have any anxiety. I got that level of net worth and I went, that's nothing.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, if I can get the next level, for sure the next level of net worth, I will have zero anxiety.
Yeah.
And I will be done with this worrying and this, this pursuit of success and the anxiety that goes with, nope. And I have friends, I have a couple friends who are literal billionaires. It seems to me they actually don't have the anxiety
Interesting.
anymore. But until you... then they just find their own problems to have, But, I've reached many fold level above that X.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed at all. I mean, now it's what you got to do is change your attitude and your perspective.
Now that you've reached that level of success, or even with a multiple behind it, what do you feel like now you're working towards?
Okay, pathetically, I'm going to be perfectly honest because I've reached a stage in my life where I'm just going to be, I'm always honest. I'm still trying to get to that next ridiculous level, which would make zero difference.
Okay.
I could go 10x and it would make zero difference.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 10, I say, because you can always justify, well, okay, I can have a plane at the next level and not have to charter it. And this is ridiculous, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah, please.
I have a plane and I have 2 full-time pilots who do nothing except when I want them. That level what did you ask me again?
What are you working towards?
Yes. What am I? Sorry. I'm sorry. I had trouble sleeping last night. I just did amazing amount of office hours today,
and your
so I'm a
mind
little
just went
frazzled.
to having 2 full-time pilots. So
Yes,
that's not,
right.
not a
I
bad
know.
problem to have.
I'm working towards. I am working towards because what I recommend everybody do is have that, and I'm sure you do, have a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Work in 5-year allotments. And as soon as you reach that 5-year, then readjust your goals and expectations. Maybe for some people it's 3 years.
Okay.
Maybe other people it's 5 years or even a little bit longer. But for me, I sort of want to do a little less surgery.
Okay.
I used to operate 7 days a week.
Wow.
Including Saturdays and Sundays. And then I remember when did my daughter get to be so tall? My Heather said to me, that's it. No more Sunday surgery.
Yeah.
And so now I sort of want to I want to be a surgeon 3 days a week, maybe 2. And what I want to do is have not unlimited, tons and tons of interesting things to do all the time.
Yeah.
And surgery is unbelievably fascinating. But, I'm the botch doctor. I've done more surgery than practically any surgeon on the planet. And I love it. It's very fun. I just don't want to do it 5 days a week anymore. So I'm working towards working as a surgeon 2 days, maybe doing, I have a new reality show coming out.
Yep.
I have another one I want to do that's even more interesting. I want to do that. I want to do this new podcast where we're going to do scientific experiments on ourselves. I think that's really cool. So I want to spend more time doing other things besides being the botch doctor who does the world's most difficult surgery.
And do you feel like now you're at a place because of the financial security that you've built that you're able to prioritize those things as more of passion projects rather than monetization?
Yeah, I think you nailed it right on the head. None of this stuff, I don't care how much it makes me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care if I do surgery that's free or I do surgery that's very expensive. When you're a plastic surgeon, you've got a giant overhead and you're trying to be successful. And it's all about, did they sign up? Did they not? I don't care if nobody signs up. Like my office tells me, oh, you have a slow surgery week next week. You know what I say to them? Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't do anything for money anymore because, to be honest with you, more zeros at this point doesn't make any difference. Having said that, I have a family that spends a lot of money. And there's a certain cash flow that's required just to support. I don't need to save anymore. I stopped saving a long time ago, but I still need to keep up with the Dubrows.
Yep.
One of the things that's kind of pathetic in my life that maybe no one cares about is I've always had this sort of disappointing thing in my life where once I get to a certain level of success, all the things that I wanted leading up to that success, I lose interest in. For example, I thought, oh, would I love to have these awesome cars? Once I was able to afford any car I wanted, I lost interest in cars. I used to love watches.
Okay.
So I was collecting Rolex watches for a while and thought they were so awesome. Once I got to a certain level of success, I completely lost all interest in watches, cars, knickknacks, clothes, anything. I so get Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs wore the same jeans and the same. I am the surgical equivalent. I'm not as successful, but I'm that and Steve Jobs. Everything I wear when we go out is black. And it's the same thing every day. It's just brand new versions of it. And I don't wear any jewelry.
Yep.
I don't even have a car right now.
Really?
Yeah. My one luxury now is I have a driver. So I get driven around.
Like
I love it's so awesome. But at your stage of life, don't you like a car? Don't you want to drive an awesome car? Maybe you're not interested in cars.
I like cars. Right now I drive a big diesel truck, to be totally honest.
But let's say you 10x'd your net worth. Would you get Ferraris, Lambos, all that stuff?
It's so hard because part of me says yes and part of me says no.
So you'll lose interest too.
The little boy in me is like, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go buy a Lamborghini. And then I think about it and like, what would it do for me past a rental of a weekend?
Oh, you're me. By the way, unfortunately for you, I envy my friends who have become very, very successful, who enjoy the stuff. I don't enjoy the trappings. Having said that, I love the trappings of our relative wealth and fame in that doors are massively open for us.
Yes.
We don't go to regular airports. We get, curb service everywhere. I don't drive. We get tables pretty much where we want to go at any time we want to go. So I love the trappings that way, but I don't love the decorations of
It's
wealth.
more so the experiences.
I love the experiences.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at now. And I think that even my wife and I we have a online education brand. So relatively it's a high cash flowing brand.
Nice.
And we've worked towards having big launches, big sales. And I actually remember very vividly working towards these achievements of, monetary value or something like that, and then hitting them. And the next day being out in my yard doing some normal yard work and being like, was that day any different? Like really not at all. And is my bank account any different? Like while it might be bigger, like my day is not any different today.
You want to do fascinating stuff.
I want to do fascinating
exactly
stuff, and I want to spend my time with really cool people that are also doing fascinating stuff.
That one of the things about becoming hyper successful, as I'm sure you have found out, is you get to hang out with a different kind of person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting at a table with you right now.
But I'm saying you get to talk to and be friends with people and the more successful people are, the sort of more interesting they tend to be. And they all bring a unique something to the table.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Yeah. We are kind of in this place where we built the brand and then we found a level of success, and now we became, I'm sure probably similar to you and Heather at some times, we became obsessed with what this could do. Right. So then now we bought the mansion.
Yeah.
Now we have the mansion. I'm like, all right, probably ready to sell the mansion, to be honest. Like, I don't think that this 7,000 square foot house serves 2 people with no children. It's like 3 dogs running around.
Oh, you don't have children?
No children yet.
Wow, that's nice.
We've tried, and there have been multiple, iterations, and now we're actually in a period of trying again. But she had a couple of ectopic pregnancies, and then we took it as a sign and said, let's focus all in on the careers.
Okay.
And so that's where we're at now.
Are you IVFing it now?
No IVF yet. We're still natural.
We had to do the IVF thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it worked?
Oh, it worked 3 times, and then we had a mistake at the lab. No, we had a mistake. No, not a mistake at the lab. A mistake, and that's how we had our last kid.
Okay.
We had it all natural.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's a good mistake, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good mistake. Yeah, very interesting. So,
So yeah, we've been on this journey though of trying to find like, okay, the business is working, and then you buy the house, and then you have it, and I think, okay, now it's a great real estate investment. I just had it appraised. We'll probably sell it and put it back into investments. But it becomes this weird dichotomy of realizing that so much of what you're working towards, you achieve, and then it literally means hardly anything.
That's exactly my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the best place you can hope for is and it sounds so cliche, but the actual doing of it.
It's the journey.
It's the journey that's so fun.
Yeah.
And so interesting. And I must say though, once you get to a certain point, it is nice not to have to worry about saying, gosh, this really needs to work out. And you're already beyond that, obviously, but because I really want to get to a certain point where I don't necessarily have to depend upon this to put food on the table. So it's nice to get that past that point. But, if you can keep it interesting and do many different things that you find fascinating.
Yeah.
But I must say, I mean, we bought some land in Idaho.
Okay.
And there's an enormous potential for this land. And it's some of the most beautiful lake view land that you could ever, we may enter into a deal with these very well-known people in this very well-known community to do this very giant thing. Will that happen? Probably not. But it's certainly, my kids would say, Dad, every time you say you're going to do something, you do it. Every single time. I go, not every time. But mostly, but I must say, if you can take it has to happen off there, and say, wouldn't it be awesome for it to have it happen? That seems to increase the chance of it. And I'm glad I'm in this phase. It's funny if you said to me, if I could be, your age and have my level of success, well, of course I would want that. But I wouldn't want to be your age at a different level than my age. This is the best part of my life.
I'm glad to hear that.
Right now, I'm the healthiest. I'm the strongest. I mean, I'm stronger now than I was at 30. Although I could run farther at 30. But this is the sweet spot of my life. So I am very focused, and our brand is about what can you do to keep this going as long as possible. It's called health span. How long can you live in a healthy, successful way? Not about longevity, because those last 10 years in some people's lives can be really painful and terrible. But right now, for me, it's how long can I keep this healthy thing going where there really isn't that much difference between 30 and my age now, which I'm 66.
Wow.
And I can still do. I'm in 1 hour when I get home, I will do as a warm up 5 sets of 50 push-ups.
Look at that. That's incredible.
Not horrible for a 66-year-old guy, right? And so, but it's much more important to, like, you have a lot more reserve, and you can go and fall off the wagon a lot, and it won't hurt your health span. At my stage, there are 2 stages of life where if you don't get it together, things rapidly change. Stage 1 is 40, and stage 2 is like 65. 65, if you don't get on a consistent program, you will deteriorate very rapidly. And even at 40, you may not see it as much because you're still very young. I know you're younger than 40, but you may see it. You won't see it, but it's happening. And so that's when you really need to say, all right, I'm aware of these 2 sort of stages of life where I need to now make an investment in my health.
100%. As you guys have grown, have there been any parts of your guys' relationship dynamics that you've had to switch in supporting each other, or even what it's like being parents at home?
Yes, definitely. You guys work together, so I don't know if you have separate things you work on, or you work on everything.
We kind of ebb and flow of sometimes having separate and then kind of zoning in together. Right now, I'm launching a podcast, launching a new brand. But primarily, it's like we look at it as like a portfolio company or an umbrella brand, and everything touches in some way.
Okay.
But they are different teams, things like that.
For us, because we do television, one of us can be up, one of us can be down. And for example, when Botched came out, it was an enormous immediate hit.
Okay.
I was sitting there in New York, and we were at a bar. We were in New York doing promotions for Botched, and the guy I do the TV show with, Paul, is sitting next to me, and he goes, "You think this will be successful?" I go, "Probably not. Most TV shows fail." And we could tell the moment it came out, the Twitter feed was ridiculous. Oh my God, this is the craziest show I've ever seen. And they call us next morning. They go, "It rated through the roof." They picked us up for 2 more seasons, right away. And now we're in year 10 of it, and I have a new show coming out. So for Heather, she was an actress. Now she's a reality star who also acts, but she was an actress. She would be on a show on NBC, on Thursday night, a hit show that would get canceled. And so there have been times when I'm up, she's down. I'm never really that down, because at the end of the day, I'm a surgeon. So I don't really, if all my shows got canceled,
You're still a surgeon.
I'm still a surgeon. It wouldn't really, I do this, it's kind of a joke that I'm on TV anyway.
Okay.
So I've always had that. But for her, it's been more mercurial, and she can be up and down. But my point is, one of you's up, one of you down. It's nice when you're both up, but you're both probably not going to be up at the same time. And that's where it can be challenging. That's where it can be difficult when one is flying high. Let's say your podcast is huge and your new brand that you're launching is gigantic, and the one you're doing together is kind of stagnant and eroding maybe, and then another thing that she just tried failed. And all of a sudden, it's not that there's a jealousy, but there is a comparison, for lack of a better word, to make it sort of more neutral. And when one is up and one down, that can put a lot of stress into a relationship. For us, she's pretty much, I mean, I haven't been so much up and down, but she's been up and down. Not since she's been a reality star.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's, household name, it's Heather Dubrow. But in her acting career, they're all up and down.
Have there been things that you've been able to do to support her on the down times?
Yes. You have to be unbelievably willing to listen to it and not judge it. And as a man, and not to be too cliche about it or too, stereotypical about it, but we men, we want a solution.
Yeah.
We want to offer answers. And women sometimes just want to talk and want to put it out there and let it go. And they don't want you to necessarily give an answer. So it's really important when the other person's commiserating about this lack of this thing that's not working, just let them talk.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to solve their problems. And I think that works whether you're in business together or not.
I was about to say.
Yeah, that's just good advice anyway.
I love that.
But yeah.
And when you are supporting her, what are on the flip side? What have been the biggest ways that she supported you throughout your career?
She has been amazingly supportive. I think one of the things she's done is, even when I'm to blame for an issue like losing $2 million, she doesn't rub it in. She doesn't bring it up. She doesn't repeat it. She doesn't lean into it. She sort of is really good at letting it go.
Yeah. That's a good freaking trait to
That's
have.
a very good, and it's very difficult,
Yeah.
And so when one of the partners makes a mistake, identify it, discuss it, and move on. And don't bring it up. It shouldn't be, she could have ragged on me for years about that $2 million mistake. And she has made a couple sort of things that maybe in retrospect we look back and go, that we should have avoided that. And I certainly could say, remember when you went to just let it go, man. You've got to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that she's been very supportive about not necessarily pointing out the mistakes I've made. The other thing she does is she lets me sort of be my crazy Terry Dubrow thing, which is like, she calls it dog with a bone. If I want to do something, and even if it's not working, unless it's, I'm using resources and it's failing, unless it's a problem, she just lets me go off and be dog with a bone.
Yeah.
Because I was 65 last year. I thought, I'm going to get board certified by the American Board of Obesity Medicine. That is not an easy thing to do for a 65-year-old surgeon. That's an internal medicine specialty.
Okay.
And then you have to start taking courses in obesity medicine and take a really difficult board certification exam. I mean, that is a very serious specialty outside of my specialty.
Right.
And I thought it was going to take hundreds of hours of study and board preparation. She goes, oh, that'll be interesting. And then I bored her to tears talking about, did you know that when, your BMI is 30 to 35, it's class 1 obesity, and 35, and the risk of this goes up, and diabetes and polycystic ovarian disease, and boring. She goes, that's really interesting. And I look at her and go, it's not. She goes, no, not really.
Like holding the space for you.
Yeah. Letting you do you.
Yep.
She's really, really good at that. She's outstanding at that. She, I think, is the reason I'm successful much more than I'm the reason she's successful.
I love that.
To be honest with you. I think she would have been successful no matter what, unless she had, a partner who was a
total schmuck,
a total douche or something. But for me, she's sort of known how to, maybe it's the mom in her, but she's known how to sort of navigate me to allow me to be the best I can be. I always used to make this analogy with her. I remember I used to say, we haven't been able to break through. She goes, what do you mean? I go, just break through that point where we're can just get to that next level, break through. And then I remember we got to a point, I go, wow, we broke through, but we're not really flying. And then we got to the next level. I go, wow, we're flying, but we're flying at a low altitude.
Yeah.
We need to fly at the next level. And I go, man, we are flying. Now it's more about we're still suborbital.
Yeah.
You know, we need to break through the atmosphere now. And if we don't, that's fine because this is enough success, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of do want to reach the next level. For me, the next level of success for me is I want to, you know, I'm good at making one person in a hopeless anatomical situation better. I would like to, and Heather's already done this, but I'd like to be able to affect thousands, if not millions of people.
Yeah.
And so I had a stroke.
Okay.
And I was at a restaurant. I don't know if you want to hear this story,
Sure.
but I was at a restaurant and I started mumbling my words for 1 minute and it went away. And then Heather said, I'm going to call 911. I go, it's gone. It's gone. She goes, I don't like that. And I do not call 911. We were at a very public restaurant where the TMZ bus goes by.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And if 911 was called, it would be on TMZ.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on, but I don't want anything on about my health on TMZ. So I left the restaurant, we got in a big argument, and turns out I had a mini stroke.
Okay.
And it was due, luckily, to a hole in my heart that
Wow.
you're born with that didn't manifest till I was this age. And the hole was sealed, and that was the end of my potential for a stroke.
Wow.
But that was a very challenging time. Why am I telling you the story? I know. So I wasn't going to tell anybody about it because I thought the public, they don't want to hear your surgeon had a stroke.
Yeah.
And then TMZ, everybody filmed it at the restaurant. And so I get a call from TMZ you know what TMZ is, right? 3 days later, go, oh, so Terry, you and Heather were fighting at the Ivy on Robertson in Beverly Hills. I go, oh my God. I go, how do you? They go, well, we have lots of film about it. And he goes, tell us what it is, Terry. You know, and TMZ, it's going to go wildfire. They're getting you. And I go, all right. I need 45 minutes of your time. I need you to take out a yellow legal pad. And I figured, let's just tell them about this.
Yeah.
So I told them about the stroke prevention, had I known, what you should have done, what you should do, and it went viral. And we got hundreds and hundreds of emails and DMs from people saying, you saved my husband's life. You saved my wife's life by telling us what the early signs of a stroke are and how you need to get to the hospital within an hour and get the clot buster glowing. And thank God for what you did. And I thought, wow, you can use this platform to really benefit and affect so many people. So that's kind of what I want to do at this next stage of my life.
In terms of education?
In terms of helping. Before it was about helping myself, helping my net worth, helping my, multiple of X or whatever that is. Now it's really about, I think the next level is using my platform, whatever that platform is, to educate health, wellness, beauty, exercise, and obesity cures and all those kinds of things. That's really where I want to go now with my life.
Well, that's definitely doable.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really exciting time where I can, because I figure if I'm lucky, I have no medical problems and I'm extraordinarily fit. I have 1/3 of my life left when you look at the actuarial tables.
Yep.
And so in that 1/3, hopefully most of it is this, rather than this and the guy, with dementia and, I'm alive, but it's not this. I want to use that to maybe affect some really positive change.
I love that.
Wouldn't it be fun? Suddenly wake up with $10 billion and your whole job was to figure out how to do good in the world. Wouldn't that be a blast?
100%.
And never worry about being, financially stable or successful, and just to be able to do that. How fun would that be?
Just to be able to give.
Yeah, wouldn't they love to Bill Gates at all?
Yes, but I feel like, at least from a perspective that's so far from that level of wealth, I feel like there's so many levels that you could do that at.
I agree with you.
Because so my wife is a web designer. She completely self-taught, and she dropped out of high school. We were both in addiction. This not a good path.
Okay.
Then she learned how to do web design. And then right at the very beginning of the pandemic, we had radically transformed our life, maybe making $30,000 to $50,000 a month. We moved to LA. We were checking off all these childhood dreams. And at that time, the pandemic started and we went onto TikTok looking for more clients.
Yes.
And she had a very different experience of, instead of finding clients, so many people started asking, how did you do this? And so we went up to Griffith and we were looking out. And at that time I was coaching and consulting with a lot of people. And I was like, babe, you got to teach people how you're doing this. And it was that quick difference of, we're not creating competition. We're just going to help people. We're going to create a community around it instead. And then at that point, we started teaching people and kind of creating this business in a box formula, taking my wife's whole business, the back end, the client relationship, all of her designs, and giving it to students instead.
Oh, wow.
And now we have like 13,000 students all over the world, ranging from high schoolers doing it themselves and their parents buying it for them, to women that have cancer that are doing it in their 70s, ranging, full-time, side hustle, everything in between. And it was started genuinely with, I think we figured something out that's so good that it would 100% be a disservice to just not share this with the world.
You're a lot more mature and forward-thinking and self-actualized at your stage of life than I was at your stage of life. At your stage of life, I was more about, how can I get more?
Yeah.
How can I make it more about me? But I'm also I was a doctor, so I felt like I was giving anyway with that to a certain degree.
Yeah. But
you're absolutely right. The take-home message is, at any stage of life, there should be a certain focus. You know what the ikigai is? Mm-hmm. It's that the intersection of opportunity, talent, and service, I think it is. And where those three things meet is the ikigai. That's the best, the sweetest place to be.
Yes.
I agree. Giving back at any stage should be part of your whole process.
Yeah.
But now I don't have to worry about any financial success anymore. I can just sort of give. But at the same time, no one wants to start a podcast and have no one listen to it.
Yes.
No one wants to start a skincare line or a supplement line and not have it be successful. So there's still that I want it to be successful thing, which I guess is good, because the more successful you are, the more people you reach.
Absolutely. And I think that, even similarly, like it gives you the ability to open up a new part of your platform that doesn't necessarily need to be monetized by the people that are gaining value from it. Where, like, I even look at, now we have 13,000 students, 99% of them are women, 1% of them are gay guys. Like it's not a masculine thing.
Right.
And so we teach all these women, and a lot of them look up to my wife and I, of me coming into her brand. And so I wanted to start this podcast in bringing on amazing guests of all sorts of different ways of how they've supported their wives, to be able to share with our community and our student body how their husbands can support them.
Yeah, I mean, that's very good. I mean, I must say, the more you support your wife, the more successful you're going to be.
100%.
That's a great take-home message for guys, because a lot of time we have some friends who their wives basically are just about supporting the husbands.
That's so common.
Yeah. And I got lucky because I didn't need that. Mm-hmm. And I got lucky in that my wife was, ambitious and wanted to do, because both of you trying to be ambitious together, I think, is actually a good thing. Other people might disagree.
I agree. I had a guest on actually this morning, and it was my first female guest, and it was on her and why she divorced her husband because he couldn't keep up.
Oh.
After building a 7-figure brand together, having children and all of this stuff. And so I think that there is actually a crazy nuance. And one of the pieces of why I wanted to start the show was because in my community and what I've watched is commonly, outside of actually the societal norm, I commonly see women wanting success and being able to navigate and adapt to the changes, both like the personal development that comes with, I want to start a business. Right. And then you're like, oh shit, I actually have to change as a human to even be able to accept what's coming and to open up the doors of opportunity. And I've seen women commonly actually be able to navigate that easier, or with at least a little bit more comfort, than men.
True. But I must say, it's really difficult, traditionally speaking, I think, in any relationship, when the woman is more successful than the man. That's a tough one.
It is.
I would love Heather to be way more successful than me, just because that makes us both more successful. But then, I'm a surgeon.
Yeah.
And I think once you get a medical degree, you feel like, I'm still a doctor. So at the end of the day, even if my wife's 10 times more successful than me, I'm a doctor. So but if you don't have that sort of crutch you can fall back into ego-wise. I mean, imagine two actors getting together where the woman is incredibly successful and the guy isn't. That's never going to work.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Or, where, I mean, that's a tough one.
It is, but it's also so interesting because I've interviewed guests and have talked to relationships, not in acting, but let's say in the world of coaching or things like that, where maybe the wife is a keynote speaker. She has a, probably $5 to $15 million a year business. She has events, a team, and the dad or the husband is more so, they have a lot of roles in the business, but are kind of more so a stay-at-home dad.
That can work.
Yeah.
It takes a very unique kind of guy.
It definitely does. To be able to navigate the leadership, but also maybe not being the financial provider.
With the ego. Could you do that? Let's say everything you did, let's say your wife became tremendously, stratospherically more successful than you. And then the last 3 or 4 things you tried to do were like, meh. So basically you were relegated to raising the kids. Could you? I suspect you couldn't handle that.
The only reason I say that is I feel like sometimes I think I could, and then sometimes I catch myself on a podcast launching a new brand, and I'm like, damn it.
I don't think someone who's doing this kind of broadcast.
I think that it's interesting because my wife did find success a lot bigger and quicker than I did. And she's one of those people that's almost annoying in that they're really good at damn near everything that they try. Oh,
really?
Yeah. And she's beautiful. She's charismatic. She is really good at creating content, which has now become a modern day superpower.
Yeah.
And she is really good. And also because we've been together since we were 15 and have lived together, we've never had a bank account that wasn't joint. It's all so together that we have a lot of different like gender roles in that I'm much more of a homemaker. I think I have OCD. So I'm like, everything needs to be clean. She's not a cleaner. Right. She does not clean up after herself. And I'm just happy to take that. I'm happy to take that on while she's sitting there making content and all of that. I think that I'll probably be more of the present parent as she is ebbing and flowing of being. I think it's a gift and a skill to be able to be a workaholic and enjoy it. But I think that there does then need to be another parent that's really focused on the kids.
You guys are going to stay together a long time.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
Well, I just think you guys sound like the perfect combo platter. You do what you do. She does what she does. And like Heather wears 15 hats in our family. I wear 2. I wear 2. I make a lot of money and I invest it really well. Mm-hmm. She does everything else.
Wow.
She sometimes makes a lot of money. She doesn't. She's part of the investment, but that's all I do. She does all the kids, all the trips, all the planning, everything. And she makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And helps me to become successful in the investing thing. But we have I do very, very little relative to what she does.
And do you guys still have kids that live at home?
So we have 2 21-year-old twins.
Oh, wow.
Who are juniors in college.
Okay.
We have an 18-year-old who's graduating high school this week.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Going off to college.
Okay.
Next year in the East Coast. And then we have a 14-year-old who lives at home.
Okay, cool.
So soon we'll just have one 14-year-old. But, our kids, we're pretty tight with them. They're all home right now.
Okay, nice.
My son still at his, he goes to LMU, so he's in LA, but he's still at his house. But he's going to be living in our high rise with us. And they're all together now. So
that's so fun.
But yeah, we have one left.
Okay.
I'm very excited about not having any of them in the house.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
First time in 22, 23 years.
Yeah, I like them. But, we've always had these giant houses. Our last house was 22,000 square feet. So they literally, I remember one time there were 15 people in the house and you had no clue they were there because the house was so big.
Was that here in Newport
the
Coast?
Crystal Cove. That
Wow.
one we sold
Yeah.
for that record price.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was cool. But anyway, so we have a lot of kids around still, but
what do you hope to pass on to especially the boys in terms of becoming a husband at some point? What are the core traits that you really want to instill of being a partner?
You got to treat them with amazing amount of respect. You got to learn how to date your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
You always try your best to treat them like you still want them to marry you or to fall in love with you. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
The small stuff is what kills the relationship, and just try to think about them as if like I always try to treat people the way, this is so cliche, but it's so true, the way I want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And the lower you are on the perceived totem pole than I am, the better I'm going to treat you.
Yeah.
But treat your wife like she's still deciding whether she wants to go out with you
Mm-hmm.
as much as you possibly can. Don't let that thing get routine.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would tell them. I go, whoever it is you hook up with, just treat them extraordinarily well, because if you don't, it's going to affect you very negatively potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And the best financial advice for sure is try not to get divorced, because that's the best way to lose all your money.
Yes.
You're certainly going to lose more than half.
Yeah.
And probably a lot more.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this. I'm honestly super grateful. I've loved this conversation, and
my pleasure. You're obviously successful and going to be much, much more successful. And I'm sort of looking forward to seeing what you and your wife do. And this is a very interesting pod. I love the profitable husband. I just think it's fabulous. I get asked to do podcasts all the time, and I say no 100% of the time.
Do you?
I do.
well, I feel honored.
Well, but I thought, this is so, first of all, in my brand in terms of, the long-term marriage and how to be successful.
Yep.
And this is an homage to my wife.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about our spouses, which is really good. I've never had a podcast where you're talking about how to be a great husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so I commend you. I think this is great. I hope you do really well.
Thank you. For everybody who's listening, men, women, even relationships listening together, where can they find and learn about you and this new show that's coming out, and maybe even this new podcast?
So just watch TV. You'll see me.
Get out of that rock. Get out from under the rock.
My wife's on Bravo.
Yep.
If you don't watch Bravo, you're never going to. I have 1 million followers on Instagram, and I never post.
Okay.
Never.
It's a good freaking problem to have.
And I am on a TV show that's on in 115 countries.
Wow.
So I don't, but we will do a new podcast where we just got a really big offer from a major podcast company. So that would be my promotional thing. Otherwise, to be honest with you, I have nothing to promote.
All right. Well,
and I don't know. I've reached a stage where if you don't want to come to me as a plastic surgeon, please don't. There's a lot of great plastic surgeons. You don't need to come to Terry Dubrow. I'm too expensive anyway.
I love it. Awesome. Well, with that, thank you, and we'll see you guys soon. That's it for today's episode of the Profitable Husband Podcast. If you're ready to step up, support your wife, and build real wealth together, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. For more strategies on business, marketing, and becoming the strongest leader in your household, follow me on Instagram @WillowKai. And if today's episode hit home, share it with another man who needs to hear this. We're building a movement, one profitable husband at a time. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next episode.